Hey guys, so first of all, I'd like to apologize for the lack of video last week and this week's video being a little late. Um, but the simple fact of the matter is that I have been incredibly busy lately. Um, School is the big thing that's eating up a lot of my time, especially on Wednesdays and Thursdays, which are the 2 days, comics come out. Um, Also recently started a new internship, which is eating up my previously free days that I would record these on, so that's eating up my time. Um, and also just like a few weeks ago, my comic store, the one I shop at, I guess my local comic store is a bit out of the way. But the one I really like shopping at, the one where I'm friends with the people there, they just keep on getting shafted by the distributor and don't get their comics at least till Thursday, and then even then it's kind of a crapshoot. Um, so that makes it later still. Also, I really don't have the time or money to really kind of keep doing this on such a scale. I thought like I know last week, not last week, 2 weeks ago, I changed the format of my reviews entirely, but now I think I have to change it again, because I am thinking about just picking up less comics every week in order to save, $10 a week or whatever. Um, and also, I can't make, 10-minute videos a week anymore because I just don't have the time for that. So what I'm thinking is I'm thinking of a new format that I'll start next week for my reviews again. But this week, I'm still thinking what to do. I'm thinking right now what's most likely going to happen is that I'll buy all the books I usually, well, not all the books, but I'll buy, like 5, 6 books a week like I usually do, or well, I guess it's more like 8, but cutting down, and then just highlight 2 or 3 that I really want to talk about, and then just give a pass or fail on um, on the ones that I bought and just didn't really feel strongly either way. Um, but this week, or rather for the last 2 weeks that passed in comics, I have a huge stack here. As you can see, I'm just going to do the pass-fail thing for this, maybe give a sentence or two on each, just so this doesn't eat up all my time. I'm recording this at pretty much 11 p.m., so this is my free time now. So just getting started, we have Clayface number 1. Pretty much I said pass or fail. I should do like read or pass because it's not a test, but I'd pass on this. I mean, it's kind of interesting, but there's a story kind of like this, at least I feel thematically, that just does it a whole lot better. So unless you're really into Clayface, unless you're just really keen on reading all the Batman stuff, I'd skip. Hull number 1, interesting story. It takes place on Krypton, and I always find stories that take place on Krypton really interesting, um, but not. I really don't like the Hell character. They kind of change him up a bit. We get kind of a realization about his past. It makes him more interesting if you're interested in the character. If you really like Krypton, I'd give it a read. Otherwise, pass. And also, Superman is still in the green thing he's in all the other Superman books. It just seems lazy to keep on using that asset to me. But what else? Scarecrow. So far, I think this is tied in to the other Batman comics the most. Scarecrow has appeared in a lot of the other comics, and in this one you kind of see what he's doing in all those with more context. But unless you're again keen on reading all the Batman stuff, this isn't too good of a story on its own. We get some good cameos by Riddler and Mr. Freeze, Poison Ivy. So I guess overall I'd give it a pass, or I'd give it a read rather, but not. Not a strong one. You could easily pass it. Superior Spider-Man, 18. Let me just flip through it. It's been like a week or two since I read these. I'd give it a read. That's right. This was a good issue. I enjoyed it very much. And this is a 3-issue arc, so this is Act 2, so to speak. So I'd read it. I'd pick it up. Shadow Thief, which I found interesting. This is coming right after Spider-Man, written by What's his name? Written by Tom DeFalco, who, of course, wrote the black costume version of Spidey way back when, and doing another issue with a character who finds a black suit that allows her to stretch and get claws and have powers and whatever. So he's staying in a strong suit. I enjoyed this book very much. I'd give it a read. Cheetah #1, written by, who did it? Who did this? That's right, John Ostrander. I knew it was a guy I liked. I really like John Ostrander. He's one of the better writers of comics, I think. I just really enjoy his work. This is no difference. Pick it up. Ra's al Ghul, or Ra's al Ghul, or whatever you want to call him. Personally, one of my favorite Batman villains, and I think this does him a good job, or it does good towards him. I said it before with the Clayface that there's another issue that came out that week that shared a lot thematically with it, and this is the one I was talking about that does that issue or that theme way better. The theme, incidentally, is kind of adapting to your environment, adapting to changing circumstance, and where Clayface just kind of remains the same and very stubborn, which is part of his character, but doesn't necessarily make for a good story. You see just how fluid Ra's is and how just how he changes and what really makes him a huge threat. And Ra's is definitely one of the bigger threats that Batman faces. So I would pick it up. It's a great read, and it's a really enjoyable character, really enjoyable issue. Lex Luthor, #1. I'd pick it up. It's a read. Lex Luthor, again, one of the more interesting villains. That's why he's like the Superman villain. This one ties in more directly to Forever Evil, or Villains United, Forever Evil, sorry, than pretty much any other book so far. And it does do Luthor justice. Kind of like Ra's, it gets, well, actually more like the book I'm going to talk about next. This one really shows off just how deadly Luthor is because of his business savvy, because he just has a dedication and not a stubbornness, but he really wants something. He will do anything to get it. He's smart and he's powerful. He is very formidable, and it really like shows off what Luthor as a human brings to the table next to all of these other villains and next to Superman, and just a really enjoyable book. I'd pick it up. Next is Penguin. I really enjoyed this one. Same thing as Lex. Like I said, this is more about Penguin as a kind of a businessman, as a mafioso, than as a rogue or anything. Just a really enjoyable read overall. It just shows that Penguin does all this disproportionate retribution sort of shit, and it's just really enjoyable to see it all play out and just see again Penguin. He's no Joker, he's no Riddler, he's no Man-Bat, but he's potentially more dangerous than both because of his charisma and his he's very savvy. So pick up Penguin. Rogues #1. I really enjoy the Rogues as a group. What I like to say about them is that because a lot of them have very similar powers to Batman villains, Mr. Freeze, Firefly, a lot of the Flash villains are just kind of like Batman villains, but for the Flash, I feel in terms of gimmick, but also just how Batman is very serious and somber and dark. The Flash has always been a little more lighthearted, a little more silly, even though he's died like a dozen times by now. But I feel like the Rogues is kind of like a lighter take on villains. They, of course, they don't want to kill; they kill only as a last resort. And I don't know. I just really like the Rogues as a group, and I really like this book, so I'd pick it up. Adventure Time 20. I think this is just a given at this point. It's constantly well written, constantly funny. This issue is no different. It seems like a one-off. The first one is a kind of a story about you sort of thing, where it takes place mostly in first person, and that's the majority of the book. And it's just really well done and really sweet, and tugs at the heartstrings, and it's funny and cool, and I really like it. So pick up Adventure Time. Moving on to this week, we have Man-Bat, which is, I guess, a skip. I mean, they do a pretty interesting thing here, but it just kind of gets muddled. They're pulling Man-Bat as kind of a Jekyll and Hyde situation, which I guess he always has been, but now that all the villains are broken out, he's kind of take it upon himself to be the new Batman, because Man-Bat, Batman. And so they make him a heroic character, but he has this addiction to the Man-Bat formula now, so he's still, like, he's constantly crossing the line between protecting Gotham and eating its citizens for food because, you know, why not, werewolf sort of thing. One of the more interesting things could go either way depending on how invested you are in Villains Month and the character, but I would lean towards Reed. Metallo is kind of a skip. I don't find him that interesting in this book. He's just kind of one-dimensional revenge machine, which could work, except it's just kind of flat and like one-dimensional. And like he seems like a big deal. There's a really good fight scene, but just I'd skip it. Joker's Daughter was incredibly hyped before its release. I think like even the non-3D covers like $30 on eBay or whatever. And I just honestly can't see why it just didn't strike me. I mean, her origin story is literally she was ugly, and that made her insane or something. It's just kind of dumb, and it doesn't really go anywhere, and I just really didn't enjoy it unless you're what's the word? Unless you're not spectating. I guess it is spectating, isn't it? Yeah, unless you're buying this in order to sell it later, I would totally just skip it. Parasite #1 probably isn't all that good, but I did enjoy it. The majority of this book is just about a mess up, a screw up, kind of like what they did with Reverse Flash, except this guy is way more of a screw up until he gets his superpowers, and then he's just hungry all the time. It's not as good a Parasite as we saw in Superman Earth 1, which I think came out this year, which was the graphic novel, I think, written by Jeff Johns, if I'm not mistaken. Or I forget. Superman Earth 1 Part 2, which I really like the Parasite in that. Not as good in this, but still, like, if you like stories about screw-ups, still pretty enjoyable. But overall, again, it's that sort of very subjective thing. Firstborn #1 is a read. I really enjoyed it. Since the relaunch, Wonder Woman has really played into this whole kind of Greek mythos sort of thing and styling all of its stories as a myth. Rather than like something really superhero-y, it's become kind of really Greco-Roman, Homeric, or that sort of style, has those sort of motif and themes. But this one leans more towards Paradise Lost. It tells the Firstborn's origin story, and he's cast from heaven. It's kind of a twist, like a link between like the story of Oedipus and Lucifer's story in Paradise Lost, where he's cast from Mount Olympus, wants his revenge, builds his whole life towards revenge, eventually does it, gets thrown back down into hell, and it's just an origin story for him, but it's a really good one if you've been liking Wonder Woman so far, if you like kind of the Greco-Roman myths, if you like Paradise Lost, I guess, definitely pick it up. One of my more favorite books this week. Secret Society #1. This is probably a must-read if you really want to keep up with this whole Villains Month Forever Evil thing, because it's, I think, Lex Luthor has the most direct ties because, well, Secret Society. Other than that, the book itself is kind of confusing at what it's getting at. It's told from Alfred's point of view about Owlman, both in their home dimension and as they crossed over, and I can't tell, just, it's kind of messily written whether Owlman is feeling guilt or regret, or if it's a reverse guilt where he's not being evil enough. It's just kind of confusing, but it links in really strongly with the Forever Evil. So if you want to keep up with that, you should pick this up, otherwise pass. Doomsday #1, I liked, but it's kind of corny, admittedly. It does the whole again, like Wonder Woman, kind of a Greek prophecy sort of thing, this time retelling the events of the death of Superman as if it were a Kryptonian prophecy, like I said, and I just enjoy that stuff. But I have to admit it's not exactly the best story. The ending is sort of confusing because it's dealing with Doomsday and Zod, who might be the same person or might not be. They're unclear about that. But there are lots of nods to Death of Superman, and I enjoyed it for whatever that's worth. So pick it up. I'd recommend it. Bane #1. Bane is another one of my more favorite Batman villains. And this one does a retelling of his history, a retelling of his origin story, but also focuses a lot in the present of Bane going to Gotham to take over now that Batman is gone. I mean, it's a pretty good character story in that we get to see Bane as a very charismatic leader. He's become the leader of Saint Prisca. He's basically a dictator with a very strong cult of personality, where he's worshipped as pretty much a god, and we see him leading this invasion onto Gotham, and how he's like just really prepared. He has a plan, he has ambition, and I really enjoyed it. So pick it up. Killer Croc was really surprising because I didn't expect it to be as good as it is. It works as a character study on this new Killer Croc, whose origin story isn't a simple abusive parent or one bad day situation. It makes him really, I guess, sympathetic just in terms of why he becomes, and he's not even a villain, like where he becomes villainous, but he, like Bane, has taken it unto himself to become a leader of these underprivileged people in the sewers who don't worship, but who look up to him as a protector, as a king. And it's a really interesting take on Croc, I thought. They make him a lot smarter than a lot of the other interpretations of him, and I really enjoyed it. It was a nice surprise. I'd pick it up. Black Adam #1. Again, I enjoyed it. I really did. Like Killer Croc, it reframes Black Adam as less of an outright villain and more as a protector of Kondak, wherever Black Adam is from, the Middle East, Middle Eastern country where Black Adam is from, and it frames more as a protector of that than an outright villain. And it's interesting because he's still very ruthless. He's still very volatile and angry, but he has a stronger motive than just revenge or just being angry all the time. He's doing it to protect his people, and it frames him in an interesting place for villains, for Forever Evil, where he wants to protect Kandak, whatever. He wants to protect his city from the what are they called? Shit. Not the Injustice Society, the Crime Syndicate. That's right. He wants to protect his country from the Crime Syndicate by any means necessary, basically, just to ensure his city's protection. So he's more of a heroic character in this, and I enjoyed that. I enjoy this issue. I'd pick it up. Sorry. I want to review this one first. I got this one at a board to pick it up at a different store because, like I said, my store usually gets shafted on these sort of things. Ocean Master #1, kind of like the other two, frame Ocean Master in a more positive light. He's breaking out of Bel Rev, like a lot of the other villains this month. And as he's breaking out, he gets stopped by all these people who are asking him for help. And he goes from this very kind of just evil racist, really. He's a racist against humans. Actually, would it be racism or just prejudice? It's hard to tell who really has the power in DC between the Atlanteans and the humans. But anyway, yeah, so it shows him breaking out, slowly gaining this sympathy or pity for the humans that he's coming across. Where in the beginning, he's offered water by a guard. The guard later gets pinned under a rock or something, and he goes over to rescue the guard which just means a mercy kill, to at the end of the book wanting to actually save an 8-year-old human child because 8 is too young to die. It's a really interesting arc for one book. I'm not a huge Ocean Master fan or anything. I don't really know much about the character, so I don't know if this is a new interpretation, but I enjoy it, and I enjoyed this story a lot, so I'd pick it up. Now we get to The Wake, which I think was probably the most action-heavy comic of all of the bunch that I've reviewed so far. We're thrown right into the action where all the mermaid aliens are kind of invading the base, the underground drill base, whatever. And there's like the small group of people who've already been introduced to, basically crawling into a little hole to save themselves before leading their offense, which only triggers a greater response from the mermaids. It's very action heavy at times. There's like a heavy kind of zombie movie influence, especially because they're just so largely outnumbered by this menace who can also overpower them very easily. But there's that survivor stubbornness, I guess, where they, despite all these odds, they come up with a plan to fight back, which only increases their danger, but they didn't know that, so hey, I can't really blame them that much, but pick it up. Wow, last 2 books. So we have Saga, issue 14. Yeah, it just continues the already good Saga story. It's I don't really know. There's not much to say. Saga is really good. It's been really good. It's probably going to continue being really good. So if you're not already reading Saga, catch up and pick this up because it's just really good. It's one of the better comics coming out, even though its schedule is a bit flaky. And now we have a book I've been looking forward to for a really long time, actually, and I am not disappointed. Sex Criminals #1, written by Matt Fraction, who also writes Hawkeye, which is another book I really enjoy every month. And I think because this is an issue 1, I should go a little more in depth than I have been. Sex Criminals introduces us to Susie, who's the girl on the cover, as she narrates basically her life story up to this point, where I guess I should just say the basic premise, or at least what I've gotten from the book is the basic premise, is that Susie has a special gift that when she orgasms, time freezes. And it's kind of a story, this first issue is a story about her self-discovery as a sexual being, which is very relatable to, I think, most people, even though it's centered on a woman. It's not incredibly unique to women, I feel, this feeling of sexual discovery, just as someone who, has been through that sort of thing. I found it really relatable. It's about her not having enough resources to understand this, and no one really wants to tell her because talking about sex is gross or whatever. So, yeah, it's like a story of sexual discovery. It's a story of this woman who really, she doesn't have anyone to help her because she has this unique ability with her orgasms, and it shows her finding a mate, or just a guy who she really likes and who really likes her back. So it's a love story, it's a coming-of-age story, and it's a story about people who can free his time by having sex. So really good all around, really. I would pick it up, and I can't wait until issue 2 next month. And so that is all of those comics. I know I went really fast, but like I said, I really don't have time to do this every week anymore. So, like I said, the new format for next week, I think, is going to be just talking a lot or more about 2 or 3 issues a week and then giving a pass-fail on the others I pick up. So, yeah, I still hope you enjoyed this video, despite its kind of ramshackliness. And I still enjoy doing it. I wish I had the time and resources to do this on a larger scale, but hey, can't control everything. So hopefully, despite this, you will come back next week, watch the reviews I had for that. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, please like, subscribe, whatever. If not, don't, I guess. And if you have any thoughts or opinions or anything, feel free to post in the comments or inbox me, and I will do my best to respond. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.